Hello everybody and welcome back to another quick tips tutorial. This one's a fun one. I'm going to show you how to make like a forest floor scene or some grassy a grassy field. You can use it to scatter rocks, you can use it to scatter all sorts of things. Anytime you want to, like, maybe you want to make one tree and just scatter it across and make like a forest. This is kind of the tutorial for you. So you may look at all these plants and be like, wow, did Mr. Rizzo really place each one of these plants by hand? Absolutely not. There are over, I don't even know, like maybe 20,000 plants scattered on this plane here. And I use a thing called a hair particle system, which I'm going to show you today, and it will help you scatter things across an environment. And it's a really great way to kind of spread things out and build an interesting kind of an environment that feels like it's really fleshed out, like a forest floor. So we're going to just dive right in, but welcome back to another quick tips tutorial.
I speak for the trees. Let them grow. Let them grow.
Okay, welcome to Blender. We're going to scatter some objects and make a cool forest floor or grassy hillside. The first thing I'm going to do is I need to make the landscape that I'm going to scatter my objects on. A great way to do that is if you go to Add Mesh, and there should be a landscape mesh here. You can click on this, but most of you won't see it because you actually have to enable what's called an add-on. An add-on is like an extra secret tool that Blender has, and we need to enable it. So we're going to start by going to Edit, Preferences, and we are going to be searching for landscape, and we should be looking for Add Mesh ANT landscape. It stands for another noise tool, and we're going to make sure this is checked. And once this is checked, we're all ready to go. Then we're going to go to Add Mesh and then Landscape, and then check this out. So it literally makes a landscape for us. On the left here, there's this tool window where you can actually control some of the settings of what these mountains look like. Feel free to play around and see what these buttons do. But there's also an operator presets tab, and under here we can make cliffs, we can make, canyons, we can make all kinds of stuff. We're gonna make a planet, like that's kind of cool. Make a rigid, that's cool. I like that. Let's use this one. I think I used this last time, so I'm gonna change the noise size. And I'm also going to change the size X. I'm going to set that to 4. Maybe set this to 2. And then that's a nice, maybe we would change the noise size a little bit. We're just trying to create kind of a rigidity. Maybe these are roots going through the ground or something. And I'm just going to start maybe playing around with this a little bit. You just play around with these settings until you get something you like. Note that you're going to really want to make sure your landscape is dialed in before you click onto the screen, or else you might have to restart. Or you can, I think you actually, oh, there we go. Yeah. So if you hit F9, it will bring up the most previous thing that you did. So F9 in my case brings up the landscape editor, so you can go back and edit this. But if you make any other changes, like if you do something else and hit F9, you might lose your work. So just make sure you make your decisions about your landscape and decide exactly how you want your landscape to look like. Okay, so we have our landscape here. It's time to scatter on some objects. And for this example, I'm going to be using the ferns that we used in that very, very first show and tell, way back in K3D1, where you had to take these ferns, some rocks, and then a treasure chest and make something out of it. So this is where, you'd have to basically make whatever it is you want to scatter. You might have to make like a plant, make like a bush or a shrub, but I'm going to be using this asset real fast because I just want to show you how to scatter this, because we're going to fill this plane full of ferns. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my plane. I have my ferns over here. They're actually, they're all in a collection. So a collection is a folder here. I'll show you how to make that. You just click on new collection, and then you would fill this. We'd call this ferns, and we would put all of our fern objects in the ferns .001 folder. It would be fine if we just do it in the collection it's in right now. But when we scatter things, we can bring things in from an entire folder. So just put these all in a folder. So then we can now get to scattering this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my plane, my landscape. I'm going to click on this plane, and then I'm going to go down to this tab. It's called the Particle Properties tab. This is a particle system tab. And we're going to go ahead and click on this plus button right here. And then boom. And immediately, oh no, particles start coming out of our landscape. Well, that's not what we want. We want to click on hair. And whoa, we just made hair. What's cool about this is if we go down the hair settings, underneath the render tab, there is a thing that says render as. And instead of path, which right now it's a path, that's why you see these big long spaghetti-esque lines here. I'm going to set this to be a collection, and guess what collection we're going to do? We're doing the ferns, fern underscore 02. And then check this out. Immediately, all these little baby ferns start spawning on our plane here, on our thing. They're a little bit small, so I'm going to turn up the scale by underneath the render tab. There's this scale button here. But if we look, they're all kind of rotated the wrong way. So we're going to fix this first. So to change the rotation of all these little particles that are now scattered on this landscape here, we need to check the advanced button. So I'm going to go ahead and check the advanced button, and then see that rotation button right here. We're going to check that. And then now we're going to decide how these things are rotated. And we're looking for a button that says orientation axis. We're going to want to set this to, I think, global X. Yeah. Sometimes depending on what you're modeling, you might just want to check each one of these. Usually I end up just clicking through these until I get it right. But for some reason on this round, global X works for me. And now check this out. We can even randomize the rotation. So maybe some ferns are kind of rotated a little bit. I can go into render, and I could change the scale randomness. So some particles are smaller than another. Maybe we don't want to go too crazy on that, but I can say pick random. So that means it will now pick a random object within that folder. So we have 4 ferns in here. It'll just pick a random one. Now, if we want this to be more dense, like right now we can see it's covering the forest floor, but it's not doing it all the way. We're going to go to emission, and see this number here? We're going to turn that number up. And it's a little bit copy and pasty. Like we can see that this feels like it's copy and pasting a lot. But what's cool about this, it's basically that we only actually have 4 ferns in our scene. Even though we have 5,580 ferns in here, Blender's able to do this really fast because it's using a thing called instances. Basically, it's not actually making 5,580 different ferns. It's just taking a reference of one of the 4 ferns that we've made already. That's why Blender's able to render this so fast. So this is a great idea if you're building out a forest or like a grassy field and you're trying to save on render time. This is a great way to build large, complicated environments. And you can even do multiple particle systems. So like if we, get like some trees, we could have this reference some trees. We could make another particle system for some rocks. We could do basically a particle system for everything. And if we layer like 3 or 4 particle systems, we can make like a really nice looking forest scene. So now that I've shown you kind of how to scatter some stuff, I want to show you some other controls. One thing I really want to show you though is that what if we want to carve a path out of this fern? Maybe you're just like making a little forest path, and we don't want ferns on everything. Well, it turns out if you click on your particles and go from object mode to particle edit mode. So this is a new mode here. This wasn't always in here before. I go to particle edit, and you'll see all these strands. Well, these are actually where the particles are at. And there's all these brushes on the left side here that can help us control where the particle's at. And specifically, I'm looking for the cut button. And we can basically trim this fern just like it's like a backyard or a lawn. I can just click on this and drag. And now I'm just drawing. And you can see this area is where there's going to be no ferns. And this area is where there's going to be ferns. And let's go back into object mode. Look at that. And we have like this pathway. So that means you can kind of art direct where you want the particles to be. So like maybe you don't want rocks and trees everywhere. You can kind of decide exactly where that is. So I hope this has been helpful. And I hope you have a fantastic day. We'll talk about this more in class, and we'll hopefully have some more demos on how to create some plant life. But here's a quick little tutorial on how to scatter assets across a plane. Have a great day.